The royal family was left reeling after Prince William made a shocking move that left King Charles and Queen Camilla in tears. This action has also caused huge controversies within the monarchy. What did the Prince of Wales do, and why did it cause a huge fuss? Join us as we cover the shocking move of Prince William. The day the palace stood still. The day in London began just like any other royal day. The weather was nice, the palace gates were open, and the smell of white roses was everywhere. Buckingham Palace looked perfect, shiny and royal, all set to welcome another formal event for the finest leaders of the Commonwealth. Flags were waving, photographers were getting ready, and guests were chatting quietly, anticipating the usual display of royal grace. However, indoors, below the ceilings trimmed with gold and four lawyers made of polished marble, there was a sense of something changed. The change was not in the decorations or the people invited, it was in the atmosphere, with the staff moving more quickly than usual, and everyone's attention focused on one person, Prince William. He had a strange request. He did not want to speak with his father, King Charles, or Queen Camilla. He wanted to speak alone. According to aides, he only wanted to say a few words. They said it wasn't a big deal. However, the people near the palace were uncertain. Royal events are very carefully planned. Every detail is rehearsed, so for William to speak alone without a script from the palace was a significant gesture. While he approached the throne, there was complete silence. The staff, who usually had neutral expressions, were paying close attention. His expression was calm, which some found unsettling. But in that calmness, there was a sense of seriousness and finality. It reminded a few of them of his mother, Princess Diana, and how he spoke with authority and honesty. And then he started speaking. There was no excitement, no rage. His voice was calm, his words careful, but each one made an impact like a gentle storm. He began by talking about the history of the crown, its past, its honor. But soon he changed course. He talked about the need for change. You're not in the distant future, but right now, concrete, visible change. He stated that the crown should not be superior to the people anymore. It should be alongside them, not just in customs, but in deed. He then made a surprising announcement. Prince William shared a new plan for the royal family that would involve more people working together. He selected Princess and his uncle Edward and his wife Catherine to take on more responsibilities and play leadership roles. The traditional system of one person in charge was becoming less important. But it wasn't just about sharing power. William was also stepping up with the support of King Charles. He would start taking on important public responsibilities. Although he did not officially call it a regency, that's essentially what it was. He would be representing the crown, meeting with foreign leaders, visiting communities, and making decisions in the public eye. No longer just a prince, but a leader in every sense. The change happened quietly, but it felt like a shock in the room. Some people looked puzzled, others relieved, but most were surprised. This sudden announcement caught everyone off guard, especially on this particular day, and in this unexpected way. And then everything went quiet. No one talked about Camilla at all. It was obvious and spoke volume. In its way, she had no part in this new situation. It's unclear if that was her decision or William's, but the message was there, lingering like a shadow in the air. After the speech, instead of clapping, the audience remained silent as they absorbed the message. The traditional ways were being questioned, not through protests or rebellion, but by a prince who confidently asserted his power within his residence. The media described it as bold, quiet, and historic, but inside the palace it was simply seen as change. The royal family was known for taking their time to make decisions, like a large ship changing direction slowly and deep waters. However, in one speech, Prince William forcefully nudged things in a new direction, not straying from tradition, but embracing a version of it that allowed for outside influences. And maybe, just maybe, this was how the monarchy would survive, not by standing taller, but by stepping closer Camilla's omission and visible collapse, the grand royal hall was filled with excitement at first. There was a feeling of change in the air. Prince William was sharing his ambitious vision for a new era, a modern monarchy that could succeed in a world that was quickly changing. His speech was confident, on point, and full of ideas that suggested a future more connected to the public. However, for many observers, the silence in the speech was more noticeable than the actual words. One important person was missing: Camilla. She had been close to the king for many years, always by his side at public events and formal functions. Camilla had been a supportive partner to King Charles, but William did not mention her in his plans. She seemed to be left out and ignored in the future he was envisioning in the beginning. She was attentive and relaxed, sitting up straight. However, as time passed, she became uneasy. She gripped the program in her lap tightly and started looking around quickly. Her breathing became irregular and her face turned pale. Without speaking, she suddenly slumped forward and collapsed silently. Aides quickly entered the room. King Charles stood up, his voice trembling as he struggled to say her name: Camilla. Everyone in the room gasped. The cameras continued to film, capturing every moment. While it wasn't chaotic, there was definitely confusion. The future queen consort had to be escorted out on what was expected to be a significant day for the monarchy. The atmosphere had shifted from a celebration to a moment of crisis. Outside the event, the palace was filled with chaos and panic. The phones were constantly ringing, and the press teams were feeling stressed. What was meant to be a peaceful day had turned into a chaotic mess in private rooms. Advisors were discussing and debating. Everyone was wondering why Camilla had been excluded from the future that William talked about. King Charles, who was already not feeling well, appeared to be very surprised. According to those near the palace, he looked genuinely stunned. However, there were doubts among some people. There were rumors going around. Some said that Charles had been given a warning. They suggested that William had clearly expressed his intentions. It is possible that Charles did not believe his son would go through with his plans, but he did now. The royal family was not only dealing with public opinions, but also facing internal divisions. Did William do this on purpose? Was leaving out Camilla an accidental mistake or an intentional? Some people close to the royal family thought it was a clever and strategic decision. It could have been a message of some kind. However, others found to be cold, disrespectful, and even cruel. What everyone agreed on was how impactful it was. Camilla was not only missing from William's speech, but almost completely ignored in the future he envisioned. Schultz was seen right away. The palace started to show cracks on its smooth surface. It was not just a public relations issue, it was a problem within the family. A division was starting at the highest levels. Some were loyal to the king and Camilla, while others believed in William and his new ideas. The sides were not clearly defined yet, but they were becoming apparent. In the middle of it all was a woman who used to be very important in the royal family, but now seemed to be losing significance. Camilla's collapse was not just seen as a medical emergency by those who knew her well. They believed it was caused by more than just stress. It was due to heartbreak. Sitting through a speech that made her feel like she didn't not belong or have a place in the future was very painful for her, even though it wasn't explicitly stated. This type of emotional pain doesn't always manifest in loud and dramatic ways. Sometimes it shows through silence and stillness. Camilla's quiet falling forward in front of others was a result of this inner turmoil. Some stayed calm, not showing any signs of being shaken or pausing in his actions. He carried on with his plans as if nothing had happened, showing his resilience. There was hope for the future of the monarchy, but it ended with unanswered questions that could not be overlooked. People wondered about the extent of the division, what would come next, and whether the queen had voluntarily stepped down rather than being forced out. The palace may not provide clear explanations, but seeing Camilla leaving the hall will be remembered. But what drove William to go this far? William's true intentions. Prince William did not make the decision abruptly. It was not a sudden burst of emotion or a spontaneous choice. He had been considering it for a while. He thought about it quietly, carefully, and patiently. There were signs that something was changing behind the scenes. The person who had always been his guide, even in her absence, was Princess Diana. Diana has had a significant impact on William's life. She influenced the way he behaves, communicates, and the beliefs he holds. She instilled in him the importance of compassion, empathy, and remembering the individuals beyond the royal title. These lessons have stayed with William and have greatly shaped him as the royal family undergoes changes. It is evident that William is working to honor Diana's legacy by incorporating her values back into the monarchy. William spent years observing from a distance, taking note of tradition overpowering logic. He witnessed missed opportunities for kindness over formality, and noticed a disconnect between the monarchy and the people that was meant to serve. As his father, King Charles, dealt with health issues, William realized the importance of time and saw a chance to make a difference. He did not just move forward, he also made progress. He did not want to be involved in a system that stayed the same simply because it had always been that way. He desired to change something authentic that represented the present world, not the world of the past. This required making courageous decisions. One option he considered was taking power away from people he believed no longer upheld royal values, including Queen Camilla. This decision may have come as a shock to many and seemed harsh, but to William it was not. Personally, he believed it was necessary for upholding the reputation and potential of the crown. Humor quote: his journey to be accessed, posted by the royal family, was a long and challenging one. It took more than 20 years for her to gain approval. Many people did not welcome her when she married Charles. Despite this, she continued to persevere and show up. Over time, the public began to warm up to her. Gradually, she earned a place in the royal family. When Charles eventually became king, Camilla found herself standing by his side, his queen consort, feeling like she had accomplished the impossible. However, things took a turn when William excluded Camilla from his vision for the future of the monarchy. It felt like everything she had worked so hard for came crashing down. It wasn't just a matter of being left out, it felt like she was being completely disregarded. All the years of effort seemed to have been undone with just a moment of silence behind the walls of the palace. There was a significant impact when Camilla fainted after William's speech. People thought it was because of stress. However, those who knew the family well thought it was more than that. It was heartbreak. She had spent a long time trying to define her position within the royal family, had endured rumors, negativity, and being compared to others, and just when she thought she had succeeded, she was pushed aside. It happened quietly, but it was a total removal from her role. Not everyone in the public had the same opinion. Some believed Camilla should have been removed earlier, citing unresolved issues from the past. Others felt sorry for her, saying she did not deserve to be sidelined after putting in so much effort. Regardless of people's thoughts, it was evident that she was no longer included in the new plans. This raised another question. If Camilla was no longer in the spotlight, what did that mean for King Charles? Was he still in charge of the monarchy, or had someone else taken over? Charles has always desired to uphold the monarchy. He waited for a long time to become king, and when he finally did, he had his ideas for what the monarchy could be. However, his health issues have created uncertainty. With William emerging as a strong presence, it is now unclear who was in charge. It appears to many that William is exerting influence behind the scenes. He is making changes gradually but decisively. He envisions a monarchy that is more connected to the people, listens more, and is more transparent. He wants a monarchy that is relevant to today's world, not just focused on the past. This transition comes with challenges. There are risks involved, By embracing his mother's principles, William might be neglecting his father's aspirations. This could result in a monarchy that seems modern yet unfamiliar to some. It's a fine line to walk between honoring the past and embracing the present, balancing tradition and advancement. And at the heart of it all is a family affair, only that has experienced love, loss, conflict, and attempts at reconciliation. A family that upholds titles and customs, but also bears emotional scars. This change comes with consequences, and the question remains who will bear the burden of those consequences. Change in the royal family doesn't happen overnight, but when it does, it often comes at a price that goes far beyond the crown. A king without command. King Charles has always had a life that is highly organized. From a young age he was instructed on what to wear, how to talk, and where to position himself. His existence revolved around fulfilling his responsibilities. He was not brought up to shock the world, but rather to safeguard it. He was expected to be a symbol of stability. He had to adhere to all the regulations, follow the path of royalty, and eventually assume the crown that was destined for him. However, now that he has achieved everything, he was assured something doesn't feel quite right. There is a noticeable shift occurring, and it seems like no one, not even the king himself, is completely in charge anymore. The royal family used to operate smoothly and without any issues. Recently there have been problems arising, and tensions are becoming more apparent. King Charles is at the center of it all, trying to maintain control of his throne as his power begins to diminish. When Prince William started speaking, there was a noticeable shift in the atmosphere. His words were impactful, even though he wasn't loud or dramatic. Each word he spoke was like a soft but influential call for change. While the king was still the official leader, it was evident that William had emerged as the true leader in the room. He did not seek attention but confidently embraced it, and no one tried to prevent him but advisors inside the palace started talking in hushed voices. Some believed Charles had agreed to the speech, while others said he was surprised by it. The conflicting opinions increased the confusion. People wondered why the king did not speak up, if he was in control, or what it meant for the monarchy if he wasn't. The stability that was once felt now seemed shaky, and then everything fell apart. Queen Camilla's collapse was not simply a health scare, it represented something more. Throughout her time by Charles's side, she had remained steadfast and composed. Despite facing judgment from the world, she had endured years of negative media attention and criticism. However, on that particular day, something within her broke. The silence that filled the room when she fell forward was deafening. While medical professionals attributed her collapse to stress, those within the palace understood the truth. It was not just stress, it was a broken heart, immense pressure, and years of suppressing emotions that finally surfaced in a single moment. Camilla was more than just a queen's wife. She represented an outdated system that had been in place for a long time but was no longer suitable for the future. Her downfall felt like the end of a chapter, sudden and without any formal recognition. The response was quick. Videos of the incident went viral online. Hashtags became popular. People did not just witness a queen's fall, they saw a symbol decline. Some felt sorrowful, while others saw it as a sign that change was needed. The monarchy was no longer just a custom, it had turned into a point of contention. Many were questioning if William's composed ascension held the answer. Things started becoming colder inside the palace. Camilla's schedule suddenly vanished. Events were quietly called off, and there were no explanations given. The atmosphere was quiet and still, with no for smiles. She went from being a prominent figure to being invisible, and just a few days staff members who had supported her started to distance themselves. It wasn't done out of cruelty, but rather in a calculated manner. It seemed like the palace was silently moving on to the next chapter without saying anything. However, as one person moved away, another came forward discreetly. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, did not give any speeches. She did not thrust herself into the center of attention. She did not need to, as just her being there seemed to bring a sense of peace while others appeared anxious. She appeared composed. People observed or not because she sought the spotlight, but because she symbolized the type of future they desired. She appeared contemporary, poised, and self-assured. She embodied the exact opposite of everything that was falling apart. The people's opinion about the palace changed. People started to doubt their support. For Charles, there were doubts about how much longer he would remain in charge. It wasn't due to failure, but because of timing. He took too long to come into power, and now, just when he had gotten comfortable, people were looking for a change. For Charles, it was more than just losing his position of authority. It was also about losing control of the family he had always defended. Watching Camilla's downfall was not just hard to witness, but it felt like a personal loss to him. Seeing William step up without any pushback wasn't just a tactical moves, it was also extremely saddening. Charles had always anticipated his son taking over eventually, but he never expected it to happen so quickly. And while he still felt new, and his lead or ship rolled, the palace rooms are now unsure and divided. Instead of being united, something Charles should assert his authority and show strength, while others believe it's better for him to let the transition happen smoothly without resistance. The truth is somewhere in the middle. The monarchy is not collapsing, but it is evolving. There are no scandals, just happening quietly. Decisions are being made behind closed doors without any official announcements or press releases. The shift is slow, subtle, and inevitable. Despite all of this, Charles is still the king, still wearing the crown. However, he is now walking in a palace where his voice is no longer the only sound heard. Whispers are becoming louder than commands. The future is not coming with excitement, but with steady progress. The transition to the new generation of the monarchy is inevitable. The focus now is on how and when this change will occur. During this period of uncertainty where tradition meets progress, the monarchy is being reshaped not through